Hello guys, this is Brick here, and today I'm going to be giving you guys a bit of a short tutorial on how to use an attack jet. And so we'll start out by talking about the differences between attack jets and different models of them. For example, the A-10 Warthog is more agile, making it great for being able to deke out and lose attention against other vehicles. Then there's the Su-25 TM Frogfoot, which is faster, and that is really useful against ground lock-on weapons, because the time that you're actually in their lock-on range is actually shorter. And then there's the Q5 Phantom, which is something that they brought into Battlefield 4 this year. And the Q5 Phantom is kind of like a middle ground. So next we'll be talking about the differences between the attack jets and the stealth jets, which are the two different types of jets that have been implemented into Battlefield. So their names are practically their description. The attack jet is a jet that can really dish out the damage, and the stealth jet is a lot faster and a lot more agile, making it easy for them to disorient enemies and get out of their sight. And this can even apply to being able to disorient another jet, because their turning radius is a lot smaller. And now we'll be talking about some basic rules. Some things that you should really look into when you're flying a jet are things that are really going to keep you alive and are really going to help you and your team out. So first things first is to make sure that the air is clear before you try and take out any land vehicles. If you don't do that, it leaves you vulnerable and more predictable to shoot at. You need to come first before you decide to try and take out a land vehicle, because you need to make sure that you and your jet are safe from other air vehicles. Second thing that you should know is know where the AA zones are. When someone spots you, the AA can shoot you when you're in its range, and it can and will tear you to pieces. Third thing is that you should know where your team is at. Knowing where the majority of your team can help in regards to giving them support when they need it. If there's an enemy armor on an objective that they're trying to attack or defend, or even trying to move in on, always try and help them destroy it. Doing so will let them focus on the objective rather than running away from the vehicle. The fourth thing that you should know as well is don't be afraid to run away. Sometimes you can get into nasty situations where there are too many vehicles for you to fend off, and the only way you can really protect yourself from that is to run. So generally when you're trying to run away, you should try and fly toward your deployment, because maybe someone might be able to spot it while you're flying there and they're trying to chase you and the AA can take them out. That, or when you try and when you do get to your deployment, you should try and fly low, because this will make you less noticeable by any other enemy air vehicles, and it'll give you some room to breathe. The enemy will most likely just get distracted and look for other things to do rather than trying to spend their time trying to find you. And that can give you some time for your vehicle to self-repair if you're playing normal, and it can let you get back in the fight. But do note that your vehicle does not auto-repair once you're playing on hardcore. So we'll talk about some air-to-air combat rules, tips, and tricks. The first thing is speed control. There's a gauge on your plane's heads-up display. It should be on the top left corner, and that indicates your speed. When cornering up, down, left, right, you generally want to keep that speed at around 300 or as close to it as you can. Doing so will give you the smallest turning radius, which is useful for keeping your eye on another jet or trying to confuse another jet that is chasing you. Second thing, always keep your eye on something that you've been trying to target. When chasing another jet, you always want to have your eyes on that jet that you're chasing. If you know that you're close but you don't have a direct sight on it, try and follow its trail that leaves in the air, because that will for sure take you to the location of the jet that you're following. You'll eventually be able to trail up to it if you are a bit more agile than it. If you lose a jet, if you lose sight of the jet that you've been chasing, it leaves opportunity for the tables to turn, and there's a lot of pressure in being chased. Speed control, being nimble, and hoping that the pilot gets bored chasing you are the only things that you really have to your name when you're being chased. Another thing that you should know too is always fly high when dealing with helicopters. Helicopters may be able to turn very quickly compared to a jet, but they are not very fast, and their agility dies down at high altitude. This gives you time to get some distance and reposition yourself to get another sweep at it, but always try and destroy a helicopter in one sweep. Next we'll be talking about some air-to-ground rules. So, for one, choose your targets wisely. Use your limited ammunitions on targets that are really being a bother to your team when they're trying to move in, capture, or even defend objectives, as certain weapons that you have on your jet take a long time to recharge. Another thing is to destroy vehicles in one sweep. Taking out a target quickly will give the enemy less time to fend off your teammates, and less of your teammates are going to be killed as a result of that. And the last thing is, know when you're getting too close to the ground. The last thing that you'll want to do is be focused on a vehicle for too long and then realize that you didn't give yourself enough time to pull up. This will either force you to bail, or it can even get you killed, which is actually what happened in this video when I was recording it. The next thing I'll be talking about is countermeasures. There's different countermeasures, and they both do different things. IR flares only divert lock-on missiles and heat seekers once they've been fired. They can briefly prevent you from being locked onto, but the ECM jammer is way better from preventing you from being locked onto. You can tell when a missile is chasing you when you hear really fast and high-pitched beeping, but don't mistake it for the original beeping that you get from the start. The original beeping is someone that's trying to get a lock onto you. So the second type of countermeasure is the ECM jammer. The ECM jammer makes you unable to be locked on for, I'd say about 5 seconds. This gives you some time to look for cover, like, mountains and whatnot, to prevent any further lock-on. The ECM can divert missiles, but it's not the most reliable way. So generally when you're trying to divert a missile with the ECM, you have to wait till it's really close to you, because if you deploy it too early, it'll die out, and then it'll still be able to travel towards you. But if you are really focused on trying to divert the missile, the IR flares are the better way to go. So the last thing I'll be talking about is evasion of ground-to-air missiles, like Stingers or Iglas, or even someone using a javelin while having someone laser designate you. Anyway, the first thing that you want to be doing is use countermeasures wisely. Don't use it pointlessly, because you may not have it when you need it. So use countermeasures as a last resort. Primarily, you should be looking for tall mountains or buildings and whatnot to hide behind to prevent any further lock-on. And the last thing that I'm going to be talking about is that if you're lucky and if you're really good, or if you get really good, there's even cases where you can let a missile start coming at you, and then you dip behind a mountain or fly behind a building, and that missile will crash into whatever you flew behind. So it can save you a flare or an ECM jammer, or whatever it is that you're using as a countermeasure. Well, that's everything that I'm going to be talking about, so be sure to watch the rest of this gameplay. And if you like this, hit that like button and subscribe.